Thank you very much, Malin. I have to start by thanking you and compliment you as much as I can, because this is what you at least deserve. I would like to thank you for organizing this wonderful event and hosting it at this institution of such an immense reputation. And many of you know that what a friend of the Czech Republic Malin is, and you know about her wonderful book, Czechs in Chicagoland, about what I would like to think is quite impressive Czech history in this city. I would also like to thank Esther Melinda Peters, who co-organized this event. And talking about friendship, to the Czech Republic, I have to say, I'll tell you that she learned Czech, which I think is, I've been told many times, is the most difficult foreign language. So you see what a friend of the Czech Republic she really is. I would also like to thank all others who made this event possible. And of course, thank also all the wonderful panelists that I was privileged to listen to during the earlier presentation. It is always a special feeling for me to be at the University of Chicago that actually played an incredible role in the creation of modern Czech statehood of Czechoslovakia. And one could even argue that without the University of Chicago, there would not be Czechoslovakia and consequently the Czech Republic. This is a rather long story to tell, but I would at least tempt you, if you are interested in getting to know more about this story, I would invite you to join us for a celebration of this legacy and also of the legacy of Thomas Garrigue Masaryk and Edvard Beneš, our two Czechoslovak presidents who taught at this university. We will celebrate this on the 23rd of September this year at this university, so please join us. And when I'm inviting, I have to say that this weekend is somewhat special for us Czechs in Chicago, because another academic institution of great reputation, Columbia College, hosts a presentation on Monday evening at 6 p.m. of our first Czech president, Václav Havel, who actually, as many of you know, was a major factor or a major contributor to the fall of communist regime in Czechoslovakia that we talked about quite a bit today as well. But for now, let me now focus, of course, on welcoming our special guest of this day, Mr. Ivan Passer. I would like to say, and if nothing else, those of you who were here for the earlier presentation already know from listening to him why I am his personal great admirer. I would like to say that during the afternoon, of course, much more competent speakers spoke about him. So it is somewhat difficult me to follow, but still allow me to make few, at least personal remarks, perhaps remarks of a Czech from the Czech Republic. His only film that he directed himself in Czechoslovakia, Intimate Lighting, is considered one of the best Czechoslovak films of all time. And I would add, in spite, as we were told by Mr. Passer, in spite of the first review that it received from the censor, being probably the most boring film ever made. But without joking about this, we would hardly find a person in the Czech Republic who would not know also the other films that he worked on and who would not consider them to be essential for our cinematography. And these were, of course, Audition, Loves of a Blonde, and The Fireman's Ball. The Czech culture, the culture is very important for our nation. And we are very proud, especially of one segment of our culture, and since the very beginning, since the silent era, it is the film. And during the communist regime that we talked about, of course, the culture, just as the country as such, obviously suffered, and the isolation of the country from the rest of the world had, of course, its impacts also on culture. It was very difficult to continue for the artists that followed, that worked during the communist regime, to follow their predecessors who worked before the Second World War and were able to contribute to the trends in culture on the world scale, such as, for example, Alfons Mucha, co-founder of Art Nouveau, who, by the way, had strong ties to Chicago. And then suddenly, in 1960s, this incredible phenomenon we have been talking about, the Czech New Wave, emerged in the cinema. And it was incredible even, and it is incredible even from today's perspective. I just wanted to make again a reference. Now I actually understand, thanks to the debate, that actually the Czech cinema, or at least the Czech film school in Prague, was not that isolated, thanks to Mr. Brosil and these two crazy guys in the film archive. Perhaps that is a little explanation. But of course, the members of the Czech New Wave continue in their work, and till today, and with every work they do, they continue to illustrate and to show how important, how incredible personalities, exceptional personalities have emerged in Czechoslovakia in that time. And this is true about those who stayed in Czechoslovakia, as well as, and perhaps even more, about those who left Czechoslovakia and went to exile. I always say to Czech Americans that I meet here who left Czechoslovakia during that time, how tremendous respect I have for them, how incredible it is that they left Czechoslovakia, started from scratch here, and became, many of them, incredibly successful, and we would hardly find a better example of that than in the case of Mr. Passer. Mr. Passer said in one of his interviews that I read that he himself didn't even believe that he would continue in film after he left Czechoslovakia, and was ready to find a manual job in docks, working for $8 an hour, I think. And he, in his own words, he said, why would Americans need a Czech director that doesn't even speak English? Well, and then he was ready, but instead, in 1971, he premiered his first American film, Born to Win, which, as I was able to read by many critics, is called the best film ever made about drugs. And I have noticed that somewhat paradoxically in this film, Mr. Pastor actually was able to use his experience from the totalitarian regime to make the story of that film and the message of the film more understandable for the audience in the United States. This is somewhat paradoxically. It struck me that actually the same thing happened with the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the breakthrough film of his friend and colleague with whom he worked on many films, Miloš Forman. Ivan Passer admits, with respect to Born to Win, that he did not know anything about drugs. However, in his own words, it interested him that here in the United States, country of freedom, for him, who came from a country of restricted freedom, there are people who voluntarily give their freedom away and are enslaved by drugs. Mr. Passer, I think, in a fascinating way, used his experience from living in a totalitarian regime to draw attention to the great value of freedom and to how restrictions of freedom can be at first unnoticed, underestimated, hidden even behind great ideals. Ladies and gentlemen, with these only few remarks on his rich and most inspiring work, it is my tremendous honor and pleasure to present to you a great Czech-American artist, Mr. Ivan Passer.
Thank you very much for a most generous introduction. I would like to say something about the film we are going to see. At that time, which was like in the early 60s, Mr. Hrabal, who was a lawyer, he had a law degree, and because he was not a member of Communist Party and he was not a believer in socialist realism, he was published underground in something what was called Samizdat. And we got together, 6 directors, and we were very lucky because we were friends from the film school, and somehow, because we had this common enemy, which was that communist regime, we understood that success of one of us is an opportunity for the other. And we were supporting each other. And we read each other's scripts and gave notes, and we were rooting for each other. And we decided to make this movie to legitimize Mr. Hrabal as a writer. And we succeeded. He was published officially, and after that he became the prominent Czech writer and internationally known. His books were translated into like 27 languages. And I chose this story you are going to see, Boring Afternoon, because I was interested in the medium, film as a medium, how you can pack it up with a story that how much you can really say in the limited time you have as a filmmaker. And also the short story gave me the chance to tell about 5 different stories in this very short film, which is like 14 minutes, and how they intertwine at some point. And so for me, that was an exciting opportunity as a filmmaker to see if it's possible to do. And probably I succeeded, if I may say it myself, because it won. It was shown by itself because the other movies together, distributor thought the movie was too long, so they showed my film separately, and they sent it to some festival in Germany, and it won a first prize, which I was really surprised because nobody told me that it is at that festival. And until today, the film has lots of fans because people tell me that they have seen it. Like today, some gentleman told me he saw it like 50 times, and more times than I did. And so I hope you have a good time. Thank you.